So is there a phone call that you can make to start the ball rolling for Western Pennsylvania?
Yes, and I'll be working with Mike Kelly's office because Mike Kelly's office is the office that's running point because he represents Butler.
Well, he was born in Butler and from that area, but he's out of Oakmont. So whose coverage is that?
That would be Lamb's district. We will coalesce as the Western Pennsylvania delegation, both Doyle, Lamb, Kelly, and myself, and John Joyce, and try to work to bring attention to this. You have my word.
And we have his word. From the 14th Congressional District, joining us, U.S. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler joins the KDKA Radio Morning Show. Good morning, sir. Guy, you're with Kevin Battle and Paul Alexander. Larry's not here today.
Well, Kevin, Paul, thanks for having me on. Always good to come on KDKA. And I gotta tell you, Kevin, it was really you and Larry who elevated this story, and I thank you for running with it because if we have any chance of bringing Mr. Fogel home, it's going to be through media attention.
Well, thank you, sir. But the point is to get a Pittsburgher home, and we really appreciate your efforts. We know you have an update here.
I do. So after the interview with ourselves, I went into work that day, and as I promised, I got a letter produced, and it was amazing how much bipartisan and bicameral support we got. I mean, Dwight Evans of Philadelphia, Brendan Boyle of Philadelphia joined with a lot of members of Western Pennsylvania, both Republican and Democrat, and then Pat Toomey signed on. So it really strengthens the letter when you have both bipartisanship and a bicameral element to it. It just shows unity within the state. So we sent that letter to Secretary Blinken at the State Department, of course, and hopefully we'll get a response today or tomorrow. I'm also putting this in the national media and trying to get traction with it there because if we know one thing, it seems that folks in this administration will get pushed by the media. So we've got to use that tendency. We got to use that tendency to get Fogel home.
And Guy, one of the issues that, from everything I've read, and Mark is a friend of mine, which makes this even more near and dear to my heart, but is he yet on the wrongfully detained list, which seems to be such a barrier for his situation?
Yeah, so he's not, and the letter talks about that. And if I could just back up, what he did is Mr. Fogel was going to Moscow to teach at an Anglo-American school, predominantly the kids of diplomats and folks doing business from the United States, Canada, the English-speaking world, basically, to teach history. And he had legally prescribed medical marijuana on him in incredibly small amounts. And the Russians gave him a 14-year sentence. Well, that is completely disproportional to their typical sentences. Usually a sentence that long, especially with hard labor, is used for people that are like drug smugglers. So for that reason, my argument is that he's really a political prisoner. He's not somebody that's just facing normal law and justice in Russia. And it's sad that everybody is focused on Griner when you've got a guy who was a teacher going over there and a Marine who was over there and is being detained as a political prisoner. And I'll just give you an example of that. The Griner's got a call from the White House. Mr. Fogel's family has struggled to even get a written response from the State Department. I can tell you, Kevin, you and I went to the same high school, TJ. Those teachers that we had, Kevin, did far more for society than any basketball player ever could. And so it shows a backwardness in our society and our government that you're prioritizing a celebrity basketball player over a teacher and over a U.S. Marine. But I think we need to bring all three home. If we're giving up the merchant of death, a man who sold arms all throughout the world illegally, spread chaos and violence, if we're giving him up, we should at least be getting Mr. Fogel along with Griner and Whelan.
Yeah.
Whelan, of course, being the U.S. Marine.
And he was arrested trying to sell $20 million worth of anti-aircraft equipment and machine guns to the Colombians, to a narco-terror group in Colombia. And we're going to settle on just a WNBA star who had basically the same issue as Marc Fogel, a Pittsburgher. Marc Fogel knew he had about basically enough marijuana for 30 joints, and he had back fusion, hip surgery, everything. He's in severe pain,
a lot of pain,
and he knew that he couldn't bring it into the country, but in the past, you might get deported for that. Now he's got the book thrown at him, and he's in a penal colony.
Right, and if I can just plug people that might not understand marijuana and thinking that this guy's like a burnout or something. Medical marijuana can be used for chronic pain management in place of oxycodone and prescription pain medicine. It's not physically addictive. That's why I supported legalization of medical marijuana in the state Senate. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just choosing to mitigate chronic pain through legal medical marijuana as opposed to taking the highly addictive oxycodone that seems like mainstream media is so focused on prescribing. So I want to make sure listeners know that this is not a guy who is doing anything wrong. Now, it's a shame that he took this medical marijuana into Russia, but the 14-year sentence is totally disproportional. That at best really is a life sentence for Mr. Fogel. At worst, it's a death sentence because this is a hard labor camp. The guy's in his 60s, already in bad health. This is outrageous.
And just what he's done, and the Trib did a great job of telling Marc's story. And his former colleagues, former teachers, former students swear that he was the best thing that ever happened in their lives. He changed people's lives for the better, and now trumped-up charges are going to basically end his life if he's not taken care of.
Right, it's a total tragedy. And again, everybody remembers their favorite teachers. When you're a teacher, you can have far more of an impact than a celebrity. And the fact that we're valuing this basketball star over a teacher is absolutely appalling. We should try to get all three of them home. Because at essence, they're all three political prisoners.
Yeah, in fact, Marc Fogel, he released a statement as best he could from that prison camp saying that a teacher's life has to be at least just as valuable as a b-ball player.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
It's amazing. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, thank you for spearheading this on behalf of the voters and taxpayers of Western Pennsylvania, and thanks for getting so much bipartisan support for the letter. Please keep us posted on how things progress.
Will do, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for pushing this and covering it. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy.